Hello. Hi friends.
Sir, you can go ahead, sir. You can
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead. Yes, yes.
Hi friends. Good evening all. Next few hours, I am going to discuss about spinomotor system examination. So before starting the spinomotor system examination, we must know the anatomy of the upper motor neuron and the lower motor neuron. So for that, we must know what is pyramidal system. So the pyramidal system is mainly for voluntary motor pathway, and it consists of both upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron. The upper motor neuron consists of corticonuclear as well as corticospinal fibers. These corticospinal fibers is called as pyramidal tract. Clinically, this corticonuclear and corticospinal both together called as pyramidal tract. Theoretically, corticospinal tract is considered to be a pyramidal tract. So the corticospinal fibers usually arises from the pyramidal cells of the cerebral cortex, area number 4, 6, 8, and these fibers descend and converge to the corona radiata and then to the internal capsule. In internal capsule, in internal capsule, especially it lies at the genome and its posterior limb. The internal capsule has three parts: anterior limb, genome, and posterior limb. The corticospinal fibers especially goes via genome and posterior limb. And then it enters the midbrain, occupying the middle 3/4 of the crus cerebri. This is the crus cerebri. And then enters the pons, basilar part, along with the corticonuclear fibers. The corticonuclear fibers will end at this nucleus level, basilar part level, and then it enters the upper part of the medulla and forms a pyramid-shaped swelling. Hence, it is called as pyramidal tract. While entering to the lower part of the medulla, decussation of the pyramidal fibers occurs. 20% of the fibers will uncrossed and 80% will crossed. And it enters into the spinal, cervical spine and the other spine and ends at anterior honsus. This is the anterior honsus. Contralateral anterior honsus. So the right side corticospinal tract gives supplies the left side musculature. So contralateral supplement. Similarly, the left corticospinal fibers supplies the right side of the right side musculature. So see the what I said is left side supplies the right side. Okay. So this pyramidal tract contains 1 million fibers in human, and the fibers of the lateral corticospinal tract extend to the lowest segment of the cord. So what this lateral corticospinal tract means, after decussation, the 20% uncrossed fibers and 80% gets crossed. This crossed fibers is called as the lateral corticospinal tract, whereas the uncrossed fiber is called as the anterior corticospinal tract. This lateral corticospinal tract extends up to the lowest segments of the cord, whereas the anterior corticospinal extend only up to the mid-thoracic level. However, at the end of this extension, it crosses the opposite side. It crosses the opposite side and ends in the anterior horn cells. The longest fibers of the corticospinal tract, those to the lower segment of the cord, lie most superficially, while shortest fibers lie most medially. The fibers of the corticospinal tract, in addition to the motor cortex, it also receives fibers from the sensory cortex. That is 1/3 from the premotor area and the remaining 1/3 from the primary sensory area and superior parietal lobe. The fibers from the sensory cortex ends in the nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus and substantia gelatinosa. and they do not control the motor activity. Hence, they regulate the sensory impulses of the brain. So this is that previously what they considered is the corticospinal tract contains only the motor fibers. But recent studies says that there are some sensory fibers along with these motor fibers. Uh,
Moonrun.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Okay, continue, sir.
சார் உங்க இது கொஞ்சம் மீட் பண்ணி விடுங்களேன் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸோடது.
Yes, sir. I muted, sir. Muted, sir.
Okay, sir. So this previously what we thought is the corticospinal tract only carries the motor fibers, but recent study says that some sensory fibers is also carrying through this corticospinal tract, where this ends at the level of nucleus, gracilis, cuneatus, and substantia gelatinosa. So the corticospinal tract carries both motor as well as sensory. Now coming to the representation, the primary motor cortex, that is at the brain level, the body is represented upside down. In internal capsule, the motor fibers to the head lie anteriorly, whereas leg fibers lies posteriorly. In the midbrain, for the face lies medially, while for those legs fibers lies laterally. So after entering into the cord level, see, this is the anterior segment and this is the posterior segment in the cord, and this is the anterior horn cells. This is the anterior horn cell. So the fibers will end up here. This corticospinal tract will end up here. From anterior horn cell, the lower motor fiber, lower motor neuron starts. So up to anterior horn cell is a upper motor neuron. From anterior horn cell, it is lower motor neuron. So first point, you have to get this one. So why I added this diagram means this diagram shows a sensory afferent and a motor efferent, which is the classical for a monosynaptic reflex. This is the synapse. Okay. So monosynaptic reflex. For monosynaptic, example for monosynaptic reflex is stretch reflex, deep tendon reflexes, or stretch reflexes. These are monosynaptic reflexes. A polysynaptic reflex means contains a multiple synapses in between the afferent and the efferent. Example is a superficial reflex is a polysynaptic reflex. Example is abdominal reflex. Classical examination, abdominal reflex. So this red in color is an afferent, sensory afferent, and blue is an motor efferent, motor efferent. So from anterior horn cell, it enters a root or radical, then plexus, then a peripheral nerve. This is the neuromuscular junction and muscle. So from anterior horn cell to the muscle is a lower motor neuron. It's a lower motor neuron. So this is the classical example. So in for to understand the monosynaptic stretch reflexes, there are certain words you have to remember. That is muscle spindle, intrafusal fibers, and the extrafusal fibers. These three things you have to remember. When a ligamentum patella are tapped with a reflex hammer, the quadriceps muscles is stretched. So when you tap at the ligamentum patella, what happens? Why you are getting a extension of the knee? So first the intrafusal fibers within the muscle spindle. This is the muscle spindle. So inside the intrafusal fibers get stretched. So as a result, the sensory fibers innervating the intrafusal fibers are get stimulated and send the impulses to L2, L3, L4. The anterior horn cells of L2, L3, L4 will receive the impulses, and uh, the efferent travels, and the efferent travels via the extrafusal fibers. The efferent fibers arising from these L2, L3, L4 neurons transmit the action potential to the extrafusal fibers of the quadriceps muscles that causes the rapid contraction of the quadriceps, results in the extension of the knee. That is the classical knee jerk. That is the classical knee jerk. This occurs in all. For example, if you tap in the biceps tendon, what is the root value for biceps tendon? It's a C5, C6. The muscle intrafusal fiber of the muscle spindle gets stretched, and C5, C6 anterior honsels get activated from, and the extrafusal fibers of these C5, C6, that muscle gets stimulated and results in the contraction of the biceps, and the flexion of the elbow occurs. This is the same scenario occurs in all deep tendon reflexes. Hmm? Okay, this is the normal deep tendon reflex. What happens if a lesion occurs at C5, C6? That is, if your anterior honsels of C5, C6 get affected, means you are tapping the biceps tendon. As a result, there should be the reflexes, there should be some reflexes or axial potential generated in the intrafusal fiber should enter into the C5, C6 of anterior honsels. Okay, it has entered now, but there is a lesion at the level of C5, C6. So hence, it can't pass beyond that the efferent fibers. It can't pass beyond the afferent fibers. Hence, the stimulus gets interrupted here. So as a result, it stimulates the antagonist muscle. It stimulates the antagonist. Which is the antagonist muscle for biceps? Which is the antagonist muscle for biceps? It's a triceps muscle. Triceps. So as a result, you won't get the biceps reflex. You will get the triceps. Instead of biceps, you will get the triceps. For example, if you are having a lesion at C5, C6, you are touching the tendon biceps C5, C6. You are putting your knee hammer into the biceps tendon. You won't get the flexion of the elbow. Instead of the flexion of the elbow, you will get the extension of the elbow. This is called as inverted biceps. This is called as inverted biceps. This occurs, this usually see at the level of lesion, C5, C6. The lesion is C5, C6 means you will get the inverted biceps. Similarly, in supinator reflex, inverted supinator you will get C5, C6 and there will be inverted supinator lesion. If you see a case with the inverted reflex, means definitely there is a lesion, and the lesion is at the level means C5, C6. At the level of lesion, there is an element type of weakness. Below the level of lesion, there will be an human type of weakness. For example, C5, C6 level, there will be lower motor neuron type of lesion. And below C5, C6, there will be an upper motor neuron type of lesion will be present. Okay, you got it? So before I explain this here, element means anterior honsels, radicals, root or plexus, peripheral nerve, myoneural junction or muscle. So human is up to anterior honsel is human. So human carries the cortical nuclear fibers and corticospinal tracts. Okay. Now you are receiving a case of myopathy, DMD, Pectus. So many myopathy cases will come to you. What will be the symptoms? You will ask. There are two types of symptom: positive symptom and negative symptom. Usually, what is positive symptom means? Usually, the patient will come to you and say that, sir, I am having this problem. For example, I am having involuntary movements, sir. I am having gait disturbance. While walking, my walk looks like duck. So many persons are saying that I walk like duck. And patient will say that, sir, I am having severe myalgic episode, cramps, especially I am getting cramps, contracture, and my urine color is high colored, sir. It's not a normal urine. So these are, if patient says means, that is the positive symptom. If negative symptoms means already the muscle has get damaged, and you are also getting some of the findings. For example, weakness, atrophy, fatigueness, exercise intolerance. If a patient comes and say, I am having exercise intolerance, 5 minutes, sir, I am starting my job, sir. I started to walk, and immediately after walking, I am getting some sort of muscle fatigue and weakness, sir. I am not able to walk, and my muscles are so crampy, so pain. Means definitely he is having some sort of issues in the form of storage disorder. So glycogen storage disorder means immediately patient will tell that I am having this kind of symptoms. Sir, I'm doing my work continuously, and after half an hour or 1 hour, I am getting the exercise intolerance. I am not able to walk, sir. I need some rest. Means patient says like this, means definitely he is also having a storage disorder in the form of lipid storage disorders. Hmm? So positive symptoms and negative symptoms you have to know. Okay. Then what is the difference between the human upper motor neuron lesion and the lower motor neuron lesion? So if you check the power, both upper motor neuron lesion as well as lower motor neuron, both will have weakness while checking the power. And in upper motor neuron lesion, there won't be any wasting, but diffuse atrophy will be present. What is diffuse atrophy? The patient can't, suppose patient is having right hemiplegia, means I won't able to use my right upper limb. Because of this disuse, my muscle gets wasted. Whereas in lower motor neuron lesion, definitely there will be a muscle wasting will be present. Fasciculation. And fasciculation, what is fasciculation? Fasciculation is the twitching of the muscles. It usually seen in the lower motor neuron lesion, especially the radical involvement, and the anterior cells. Tone, the upper motor neuron lesion, the tone will be hypertonia. Either it may be a spasticity or rigidity. Whereas lower motor neuron, there will be flaccidity, hypotonia. Superficial reflexes, both in human lesion and LMN lesion, superficial reflexes will be lost. Deep tendon reflexes will be exaggerated in the upper motor neuron lesion, whereas in lower motor neuron lesion, deep tendon reflexes will be lost. Plantar in upper motor neuron lesion is a extensor type plantar will be present. Lower motor neuron lesion, there is flexor. For example, you are getting a case of cervical spondylosis C5, C6 level of lesion. So, at the level C5, C6. So C5 sensory innervation is in the deltoid region, C5 sensory. There will be loss of sensory level at the C5 deltoid region, as well as patient, you will have absent reflex of biceps and supinator, absent biceps with the inverted triceps, and other reflexes, knee reflexes, then finger flexion, then Wartenberg, Hoffman sign, the ankle reflexes will get exaggerated. Plantar will be extensor. So this says that at the level C5, C6, there is an element type of weakness, and there definitely there will be a wasting will be present at the deltoid region. So at the level of lesion, there will be an element lesion. Below the level, there will be an human lesion. So I want to say something. So how in element type of lesions, how will you identify whether the pattern of weakness is due to antron cells or radicals or peripheral nerves or myoneural junction or muscle? So there are certain clues in that. So if a patient comes to you, you are seeing it, there is a wasting. There is a wasting and a fasciculation. So you definitely you know that this is a element type of lesion, and you have to fix the you have to localize the lesion. Where is that? In anterior horn cell lesion, there will be differential wasting and weakness will be present. For example, deltoid has three type of fibers: anterior fiber, middle fiber, and posterior fiber. So everyone knows that deltoid has three type of fibers. In case of C5 anterior horn lesion, see, you say C5 anterior horn lesion, there will be differential weakness. Anterior fibers will be more involved than middle and posterior fibers. Or sometimes the anterior fibers alone will get involved. So this is a classical of anterior horn cell lesion. Among the C5, there will be differential weakness. Okay, this is anterior horn cell. So you can see wasting, fasciculation as well as differential wasting, differential fasciculations will be present in the anterior horn cells. And similarly, in anterior horn cell, you will also get the uh, wasting will be more than the weakness. Wasting will be more than the weakness. So patient will come and say, சார் என்னோட கையெல்லாம் சுண்டி போயிருக்கு சார், ஆனால் என்னால் வந்து கிரிப்பாலாம் பிடிக்க முடியுது, அதுலலாம் ஒன்றும் ப்ராப்ளம் இல்லை. So patient will say like this. So this means that your hand muscles get wasted. In spite of wasting, the weakness is not proportionately to wasting. Okay. That is the classical feature of anterior muscles. In case of radicals, root and plexus, usually polyradical, if in case of radical, classical example for radical is Guillain-Barré syndrome, there will be a symmetrical involvement. Proximal will be more involved than distal, and fasciculation, sometimes fasciculation will be seen. Both motor and sensory radical can be involved. So radical means that is the differential point. Whereas root and plexus, definitely there will be some pain. If root is involved, patient definitely help him. Suppose C5 root is involved, the pain will be distributed along with the C5. So radical, sometimes radical will also have pain. That is, you see in lumbar spondylosis and all, patient will get lumbar radicular type of pain and all patient will get. So radical root, there will be pain. In case of peripheral now, definitely the lesion, wasting, atrophy, and both motor as well as sensory will be involved along the particular nerve. For example, radial nerve means radial nerve, motor, sensory will be get involved. Myoneural junction. See, myoneural neuromuscular junction, there will be fatigability, easy fatigability will be present, and diurnal variation will be present, and continuous action, there will be fatigue. A patient will have fatigue, right, in continuous action in case of myasthenia gravis. Some cases like Eaton-Lambert syndrome, a continuous usage of the muscle, patient will have more power, gets more power. In muscle, usually the muscle pattern will be symmetrical pattern. Proximal muscle gets more involved, and flaccidity will be present. In spite of the wasting and the weakness, the reflexes will be retained. That is the main characteristic feature of muscle. So this is the classical difference between human and LMN, and in LMN, and these are the some of the differential points that is useful to identify the localized lesion. Okay. So I already said this, the signs of there will be no muscle wasting, disuse atrophy will be present, Klasner spasticity. What is Klasner spasticity? It mainly affecting the anti-gravity muscles. Anti-gravity muscles, for example, in upper limb anti-gravity muscle is flexor group of muscle, and in lower limb there is the extensor group of muscle. So paralysis of the voluntary movement gets affected, and a distal weakness will be early to be involved. For example, in pyramidal tract lesion, human type of lesion, initially patient will say, sir, I am feeling more difficult to button my shirt. However, I am able to squat easily without any difficulty. You say in cervical spondylosis, if you take a case of cervical spondylosis, patient will say, sir, I feel difficult to mix the food, sir. I feel difficult to button my shirts. However, I am able to squat, I am able to walk, sir. Patient will say like this. So other muscles get early to be involved are shoulder abductors, hand grip muscles, hip flexors, foot dorsiflexor. See this one is commonly asked question in exam. So what are the muscles that get involved in um, upper motor type of lesion or pyramidal tract lesion means you have to say this one. The weakness will, but however, the weakness will be more in extensors of the upper limb and flexors of the lower limb. So it is opposite to the tone. It is opposite to the tone. Tone and weakness is opposite. Okay. So the group of muscles first affected are the last to be recovered. Last to be recovered. For example, the hand grip muscles or mixing of fine grip muscles will be recovered discover lastly in the pyramidal tract lesion. And other signs that include the superficial reflexes will be lost, and Babinski sign will be positive. Deep tendon reflexes are exaggerated, associated with the clonus. Coming to the lower motor neuron lesion, the affected muscle gets wasted, hypotonia or flaccidity will be seen. Then, especially the weakness will be localized to anterior onsal or the radical or root or peripheral nerve. So, fasciculation, as already I said, fasciculation, flexor plantar, and the deep tendon reflexes will be absent. Deep tendon reflexes will be absent, except in neuromuscular junction disorder and muscle. Okay. Now you see the distribution of weakness. So if you take the muscle weakness, the distribution can be either it occurs in few muscles, for example, in myopathies. So some group of shoulder girdle muscle gets involved, limb girdle muscles get involved. Limb means only single limb is affected means monoplegia. Same say upper limb and the lower limb gets affected means hemiplegia. Paraplegia, both lower limb get affected. Quadriplegia, for all four limbs gets affected. So type of weakness can be a human type of weakness or element type of weakness. So onset and evaluation of weakness. See, after knowing this, you have to ask the onset. If there is an acute or hyperacute, unless otherwise it is an vascular insult. Vascular insult. For a neurologist, it is a vascular insult. For an orthopedician, it is unless otherwise it's a trauma. So gradually worsening over to days or weeks, subacute means most probably it is a demyelination. Most probably it is a demyelination. Evolving over months or years, chronic means most probably a muscular disease. Most probably, for example, in muscular disease. Sometimes in cervical spondylosis, slowly there will be encroaching of the spinal canal. Then you must know the difference between the hypertrophy, pseudo hypertrophy and true hypertrophy. Pseudo hypertrophy, usually muscles will be bulkier and weak. Usually the common muscles get involved is calf muscle, gluteal muscle, and infraspinatus and quadriceps muscle. Example, pseudo hypertrophy usually is in DMD, hypothyroidism, storage disorders. Whereas in true hypertrophy, the muscles are large, elastic, feel hard, and globular, stronger than normal. Usually, muscles of hand and face gets involved. Now, we are going to enter the spinomotor system examination. So, you are getting a case of cervical spondylosis. So, you have finished your history and the general examination gets over. Then, on examination of the central nervous system. So, in this first order of priorities, first you have to test the higher mandal function, then cranial nerves, then spinomotor system examination, then sensory, cerebellum, autonomic nervous system, then spine and cranium, then meningia. So this is the method of examining a case of central nervous system examination. Okay. So in this autonomic nervous system is very, very important. So most of the candidates will miss this autonomic nervous system examination. I know it is very difficult to do ANS examination in within 45 minutes. At least you have to say resting tachycardia, then excessive sweating or reduced sweating, like that. You have to say something so that the examiners gets to know that you have done something to examine the autonomic nervous system. Okay, so you have finished the higher mental function examination, cranial examination is over. Now you are entering into the spinomotor system examination. This is the way you have to present the spinomotor system examination. First, you have to look the nutrition, then bulk, tone, power, then superficial reflex, deep tendon reflexes, then gait, then extrapyramidal signs. So this is the way. Some books say you have to add coordination. See, the coordination will comes into cerebellum examination. Okay, so either you put in cerebellum examination or in spinomotor system examination. So in neurological part, we will put the coordination in the cerebellar system. We won't add in spinomotor system examination. Okay. So this nutrition is very nutrition and bulk is very important. With with this nutrition and bulk, we will come to know that it is due to a Andrean cells or plexus. While seeing the patient on examination itself, we will say that this is the Andrean cell or plexus or radical. We can easily you can identify. For example, you know about Hirayama's disease. You know Hirayama's disease, no? So Hirayama disease, you see, you can see the small muscle wasting in the hand. You can see small muscle wasting in the hand, and the brachyradialis will get spared. So this is the classical of Hirayama's disease. By observing the patient, you can diagnose is a case of Hirayama's disease. Okay, so like that you can see. So you are seeing a patient is standing, and you are seeing the calf muscle. There is a pseudo hypertrophy. So definitely patient will have muscular disorder. So definitely patient will have muscular disorder. So like that you can identify. Okay, so how will you measure the bulk? So bulk, you have to see the circumference of the limbs. In upper limb, you have to measure at arm and forearm. So 10 centimeter above olecranon and 10 centimeter below the olecranon. So please, you have to remember this point. So you measure olecranon. This is the olecranon. You know this is the olecranon. From here, this is 10 centimeter here and 10 centimeter here. Okay. In lower limb, 18 centimeter above the superior border of the patella and 10 centimeter below the tibial tuberosity. This is the lower limb. Lower limb. So you have to look simultaneously. You have to look on both sides, and is there any significant difference? So usually dominant side will have more bulkier than the non-dominant side. This is everyone knows this one. So more than 3 centimeter can be taken as significant. More than 3 centimeter can be taken as significant. Okay. And in nutrition, you should also see where are the wasting of the muscles present. For example, usually you should look for where to look means you have to look for deltoid, because C5, C6 there is lesion means they will be wasted at C5 deltoid region, and condor of the humerus gets lost. Then small muscle wasting you have to look. Especially you have to look for brachyradialis, whether brachyradialis is spared or not. And then quadriceps wasting you have to look, calf muscle wasting. Then lower limb, foot muscle wasting, small muscles of the foot gets wasted or not. And there is a pes cavus or pes cavus, you have to look for pes cavus. Then any foot deformity, hand deformity. Then you have to look for fasciculations, polymyomiclonus. So if forearm muscle gets atrophied means you will get polymyomiclonus. That is tremulence of the fingers will be present. So like patient will have will present like this. Then in hand, whether the whole muscle gets affected or thenar alone gets involved or hypothenar alone is get involved. If thenar get more affected more means you have to think it of anterohonsal lesion. Suppose hypothenar and both gets affected means you have to think it of some cord lesion or high cord lesion. Okay. So are you able to follow my lecture?
Yes, sir.
So far it is very clear, sir. So far it is very clear. No problem, sir. Absolutely no problem.
Okay.
No problem, sir. Perfect.
So we have finished nutrition and bulk. Then we are going to examine the tone. So how to examine a tone? So ask the patient to relax. There are 3 methods to examine the tone. First, we can passively flex and extend the joint so that we can we can see the individual flexor group tone and the extensor group tone. This is the one method of testing. And the second method of testing, in case of comatose patient, you think that a patient is comatose patient. You just lift the hand, upper limb, and put over his face. So in case of hypotonia, the limb will fall over the face or limb will fall over the bed. Whereas in hypertonia, the limb will be will get stagnant there itself. So this is the hypertonia. Uh, in lower limb examination, you have to stand in the head on side of the patient, and you have to lift the lower limb and put it on the bed. In case of flaccidity or hypotonia, it will fall rapidly. Whereas in case of hypertonia, it will stand as like that. So this is the various method of examination of the tone. So I can, without patient only, I can say only theoretically. It's very, I don't know how you get understand. So first thing is ask the patient to get relaxed, then passively flex and extend each joint in turn, and you have to do slowly, then you have to do fastly. How much resistance you have to feel. In upper limb, tone is tested in the bigger joint, especially shoulder, elbow, and wrist. Are you able to see my hand, upper limb? No. So you place this like this. You hold here and you just flex and extend my elbow like this, as I am doing. While doing your flexing and the elbow, you have to look down in the flexor and the extensor aspect of the arm muscles. This is the very, very, very important, because most of them, what they do means just they will flex and extend the elbow like this, and they will say that tone is hypotonia, tone is hypertonia, like this they will say. If you do like this means definitely you will fail in the exam. So first you have to palpate the muscles which you are going to test. Then only you have to start the examination. So for that you have to expose the muscle which you are going to test. So coming to the lower limb, the test to test the tone at the hip by means of internally and externally rotating the resting hip. For example, you consider this is my lower limb. You have to rotate like this. Okay, fastly you have to do rapidly. So in case of flaccidity, you see you can easily rotate the limb in case of flaccidity. In case of spasticity, you can't be able to move. In case of cervical spondylosis, definitely patient will have quadriplegia, quadriparesis. Forelimb, the tone will be hypertonia will be present. Class-wise spasticity will be seen. Okay. How will you test in knee? Just by flexing and extending the knee. See, while flexing and extending the knee, you have to keep your other hand over the quadriceps muscles and the hamstrings. You have to look, you have to feel the tone of the muscle while flexing and extending the knee. Similarly, at the ankle, you have to dorsiflex and plantar flex the foot. So this is the tone. So in human lesion, there will be hypertonia. In LMN lesion, there is an hypertonia, flaccidity will be present. Human can be spasticity or rigidity. A rigidity can be a lead pipe rigidity, cogwheel rigidity, Degenhalten, and paratonia. Okay, so you don't want to remember this rigidity, you just forget this rigidity, you remember the spasticity alone. Hypotonia, in LMN lesion, you will see the hypotonia. The other condition associated with the hypotonia are chorea, cerebellar disorders. Chorea and cerebellar disorders. So, coming to the difference between a spasticity and rigidity. Spasticity, usually seen in human pyramidal lesions, and resistance is encountered either in the beginning or at the end of the passive movement. It's a stretch sensitive phenomenon. It's a velocity dependent. So spasticity is and velocity dependent, and involves only the anti-gravity muscles and associated with the exaggerated DTRs. associated exaggerated DTRs. Whereas in rigidity, it's usually seen in extrapyramidal lesions. Resistance is continuous throughout a passive movement. Stretch is uniform and it is not a velocity dependent and involves both agonist as well as antagonist muscle. DTR will be a normal or diminished in rigidity. So you please remember this spasticity. So spasticity means stretch sensitive phenomenon and velocity dependent and involves the only the anti-gravity, that is one group of the muscle gets involved. The classical class 9 spasticity in the pyramidal tract lesion, there will be classical class 9 spasticity will be present. Then coming to the, after examining the tone, coming to the power. See, up to tone itself, you will get the diagnosis. If your proper history, with your proper examination, you will get the diagnosis, and you will come to know that definitely this group of muscles should be weak than this group. இது வரைக்கும் வந்து நீங்க இந்த டோன் வரைக்கும் நீங்க பண்ணாலே போதும். நீங்க வந்து cervical spondylolisனாலும் சரி, எந்த லீஷன்னாலும் சரி, நீங்க ஈஸியா வந்து இந்த மசிலுக்கு இவ்வளவுதான் பவர் இருக்கணும் நீங்க அசியூம் பண்ணிடலாம். So now coming to the power can be tested by means of both isometric and isotonic testing. I will say what is this isometric and isotonic testing. So the isometric testing is more sensitive in detecting subtle degree of weakness. See, for example, if you want to test here biceps power, you want to test the biceps power. What is the action of biceps? It's a flexion of elbow. See, the flexion of elbow can be brought by so many muscles. You consider just a flexion of the elbow. So you are flexing an elbow. You are giving a resistance while flexing. So you are giving the resistance to flex means this is a one type of testing. So already patient has flexed the elbow. Now you are giving a resistance to extend the elbow. You are giving the resistance to extend the elbow, and you ask the patient to remain in the flexed elbow state. So these are the two type of examination of the power. This is called as the isometric and the isotonic testing. See, now grading means this MRC grading. Grade 0 means no contraction. 1 is flickering will be there. 2 gravity eliminated. 3 against gravity. 4 against gravity and resistance. 5 is normal power. In between minus G plus, and you can put mild weakness, severe, moderate, you can say. So I will discuss this grading of muscle power in next session. Okay. So either you can test the muscle individually. For example, in case of anterohonsal lesion or in myopathic lesion, you have to test the muscle individually. And in radical roots plexus also, you have to differentiate which root is get involved. Means you have to test individually the muscle. Or otherwise, you can test the whole joint. For example, shoulder flexion, extension, erection, abduction, rotation, internal rotation, external rotation. In whole joint, you can test. So you alternately see, if you are testing a muscle in the right upper limb, means simultaneously you have to test over the left side also, so that you can compare. In hemiplegia, it will be easy to see the weakness. Suppose right hemiplegia means right will be more weaker than the left. However, in cervical spondylosis, the lesion will be the mostly asymmetrical weakness will be present. So from the clinical examination, you can say which side is more affected, and earliest which side is affected, you can say by means of clinical examination. So examine the individual muscle groups in both limbs alternately or simultaneously, and you should compare. First thing. Second thing, what is isometric and isotonic exercise? Either ask the patient to contract a group of muscle as possible and to maintain the contracted position while the examiner tries to overpower the muscle group being tested. For example, what I am saying, ask the patient to flex the elbow. Now you are giving the resistance to extend the elbow and ask the patient to remain in a flexible state. This is isometric testing. In case of isotonic, ask the patient to remove the joint while examiner attempting to halt the movement. See, this is the isotonic. Ask the patient to flex the elbow. So you are giving a resistance. This is the isotonic. Isometric will be better than the isotonic testing. So this is the power. Power I will deal separately. Then comes the reflexes. In reflexes, superficial reflex, corneal, conjunctival, gag, abdominal reflex, cremastic, plantar, anal reflex, bulbocavernous reflex. These are the superficial reflex. So superficial reflex, what you should know in superficial reflex is afferent. What is the afferent? What is the efferent? And the center. Every examining book it has given. The corneal and conjunctival reflex, afferent is 5th, efferent is 7th cranial, center is pons. Gag reflex 9th and 10th now, center is medulla. Abdominal reflex, there is an afferent and efferent is C6, T6 to T12. Okay. Then cremastic L1, L2, plantar S1, plantar is S1, anal reflex S2, S3, S4. So I am not going to discuss about corneal, conjunctival, gag reflex because these three reflex, they won't ask anything about these three reflex to you. They will just, you consider this abdominal, cremastic, plantar and anal reflex because this is the very important to you. Whatever may be quadriplegia or paraplegia, you have to look cremastic, abdominal and anal reflex, bulbocavernous reflex. You have to look this thing. So anal reflex is S2, S3, S4. Just stroking or scratching the skin near the anus in a circular manner produces the contraction of the anal sphincter. Before doing the anal reflex, you have to see the anal tone. Anal tone, just insinuate your finger into the anus and you see anal tone, how whether it is grip. Normal will be, there will be contraction of the muscle. There will be contraction of the muscle. Your finger will get tightly hold. It is normal. However, in human type of vision, there will be a tone will be hypertonic tone will be seen. Element, there will be a flaccidity will be seen anal tone. Then comes bulbocavernous S2, S3, S4. Pinching of the dorsum of the glans penis produces the contraction of the bulbocavernous muscle. So for this, you hold the penis and make a pinching over the glans penis and see the dorsum of the, just to keep your finger below the dorsum of the scrotum, at the end of the scrotum and the penis gets attached. No, there just you see the contraction of the bulbocavernous. So corneal, how to do corneal reflex? You ask the patient to see upward and see, you just touch a wisp of cotton or wisp of cotton or light touch made in the periphery of the cornea. Definitely there will be closure of the eyelid, eye will be present due to the stimulation of the 5th cranial nerve and closure is due to the 7th cranial nerve. Both, it has both direct and indirect. So direct means if you are testing on the right side, the left side gets closed. That is the right side it is direct, left side it is indirect reflex. Okay, see, this is the cremastic reflex. Cremastic reflex L1, L2. First, ask the patient to put in a supine posture and slightly externally rotate the thighs. Legs gets abducted. Scratch the skin from the upper thigh with a stick from below upwards. So you have to scratch from below upwards. This is very important. You have to go from below upwards. Okay. So what you have to observe means ipsilateral testicle movement. You have to observe the ipsilateral testicle movement. So normal response is contraction of the cremastic muscle with the elevation of the ipsilateral testicle. With the elevation of the ipsilateral testicle. Okay, this is the normal gymnastic reflex. Then abdominal reflex. See, you have to do in this order. So from out to towards umbilicus, from out towards umbilicus. So this is abdominal, upper abdominal reflex. This is lower abdominal reflex. This is umbilicus. So you see upper abdominal T6, T6. The whole is T12. This is T10. Umbilicus level is T10. T6 to T10. T11, T12. Lower is T11, T12. So why this is very, very important in this is if a patient gets, if a patient with paraplegia, there is a, if T10 is lesion, if T10 is gets lesion, they get a beaver sign. It's a beaver sign. Beaver sign means just you place your knee hammer handle. This is the knee handle. You place over the umbilicus and ask the patient to lift his head. If the umbilicus moves upwards more than 3 centimeter, moves upwards towards sternum, means the lesion is at the T10. That means the upper abdominal muscle is normal, whereas lower abdominal muscle gets affected. Lower abdominal muscle gets affected. This is called as beaver sign. This is very, very important. If you get a case of paraplegia, you have to mention beaver sign. Definitely you have to mention beaver sign. Okay. So in case of only one muscular disease, facioscapulohumeral dystrophy, usually this FSHD patient will come and land up in orthopedic department. So in this case also, you will have the beaver sign positive. The only muscle disease you have beaver sign positive is FSHD, facioscapulohumeral dystrophy. Okay. Then how to examine this abdominal reflex? First, you ask the patient to in supine position and relax the upper limb by this side and stroke the upper and lower quadrant like this from outwards towards the umbilicus and observe the muscle contraction. Normally, following a stimulus, there is a homolateral contraction. If you contract, if you scratch this side, the umbilicus will move towards this side. So there will be retraction of the linea alba and the umbilicus towards the quadrant stimulated. So T6, T9, umbilicus is T10, T11, T12 is lower abdominal reflex. Now now we are entering into an important reflex, plantar reflex. Definitely they will ask you to show the plantar reflex whether you are doing correctly or not. They will see. If you are doing wrong method means you will get caught and you will be held up for 6 months. Okay, so for that you have to read plantar reflex in and out. So how you have to do plantar reflex? A firm stroking stimulus to the outer edge of the sole of the foot to evokes the dorsiflexion of the large toe and the fanning of the other toes. Once you get this response, you have to stop the reflex. So some person will say, do that, they will start to stroke and after even they are getting the response, they will end up to the ball of the great toe. If you go do like this means that is the wrong technique. That is the wrong technique. Okay. So once you get the response, you have to stop the stimulus. Okay. If you are not getting the plantar, so plantar, you are having a case of cervical spondylosis, you are not getting the response. At the time, what will you do? You can also stimulate the lateral border of the dorsal aspect of the foot. Lateral border of the dorsal aspect of the foot. This will get the minimal plantar response. This will get the minimal plantar response. So place the patient in supine in relaxed position with the knees extended. With the knees extended, just to hold the ankle with your left hand above the foot or over the knees to prevent the withdrawal of the foot. And now this scratch the outer edge of the sole by means of your key or stick from the heel towards the little toe, then medially across the metatarsus and not go beyond the second metatarsal. Not go beyond second metatarsal. You have to stop before touching the big toe metatarsal because you will go, it will give you a false positive results. It will give, if you test means you will get a false positive result. Okay. So what is a positive Babinski sign? The positive Babinski sign consists of dorsiflexion of the big great toe, fanning of the other toes. There will be a slight dorsiflexion of the ankle and flexion of the knee and the hip with the contraction of the tensor fascia lata, and is actually, it is actually considered as a generalized flexor response of the limb. So you will get a 5 type of response. One is dorsiflexion of the big toe, fanning of the other toes, slight dorsiflexion of the ankle, flexion of the knee and the hip with the contraction of the tensor fascia lata. So you have to look this 5 response before you are giving a plantar negative. Okay. So for this, you have to expose up to the tensor fascia lata. You have to expose the lower limb up to the tensor fascia lata and external genitalia to be covered. So before doing this plantar response, first you cover the external genitalia and expose the whole thigh and the leg, whole thigh and the leg, and then you do. Okay. Anyway, we will see only the extension of the toe, but the examiner will look whether you are seeing the whole response or not. So coming to the, if you are getting a, in spite of cervical spondylosis, patient having hypertonia, you are getting a negative response means next, before committing as a negative plantar, you have to do a reinforcement technique. That is Jendrowski maneuver. Jendrowski maneuver, either clenching the teeth or fisting the both upper limb, fisting both upper limb or hooking the both upper limb, or ask the patient to see fan, or diversion should be given. And don't ask the patient to see the limbs and all. Then you rub the warm the cold skin and rub the sole, and you make the stimulus now. Then you see the definitely you will get the response. Okay. So before committing a negative plantar, you do reinforcement and then go for it is positive or not. Okay. So this is called as Jendrowski maneuver. Definitely they will ask this about Jendrowski. What is Jendrowski maneuver? What happens in Jendrowski maneuver means there will be an increased gamma motor discharge will be present. Increased gamma motor neuron discharge. Okay. So you no need to read about what is gamma motor neuron discharge and all. You just remember the fact alone. So, okay, most of the, you are in a surgical ward. Most of the case you will see a case with amputated great toe. What will you see? So you are in amputated great toe. In amputated great toe, you are going to do a plantar response now. Okay. In this scenario, definitely you have to expose the thigh. Definitely you should expose the thigh. Otherwise, you will be cut. Okay. So in amputated great toe, there will be fanning of the lateral foretoes with the dorsiflexion and eversion of the foot will be taken, and it can be considered as a positive response. It can be considered as a positive response. For example, you consider the foot is also amputated. Then you have to look the tensor fascia lata contraction. Tensor fascia lata contraction. Okay. So now now the patient is having exaggerated deep tendon reflexes, clonus and all. Patient is having plantar extensor. Everything is exaggerated. Then the examiner will ask 3 questions. What is plantar equivalence? What is plantar equivalence? How will you look? In lower limb, how will you look? Upper limb, how will you look? Okay. In lower limb, most commonly they will ask these 3 signs: opening sign, Gordon reflex, Chodok sign. What is opening sign? Opening sign, you stroke heavy pressure by thumb and, that is, you hold the thumb and index finger above the shin of the tibia, below above downwards. You go along with the above downwards, anterior aspect of the tibia. So you will see the extensor of the great toe. You will see the extensor of the great toe. So this is equivalent to plantar. Then come the Gordon's. Just to give a pinching the Achilles tendon, you will get the extensor response. Chadaxine, just give a scratching over the lateral malleolus. Lateral malleolus, it will give you a plantar, extensor plantar. So these are the plantar equivalents in the lower limb. What about in upper limb? Upper limb, it has two responses. One is Hoffman sign and the other is Wartenberg sign. See Hoffman sign, are you able to see my hand? See my left hand, okay? Able to see my hand now? Hmm?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, see how you should do means just just to flicker. You hold like this, and flicker my distal part of my finger. Hold my distal part on. Give a flickering activity. Flickering activity. Normally, there won't be response. In case of human upper motor neuron tract lesions, see, if you do a flickering of the distal part of your finger, there will be associated flexion and adduction of the other fingers. You can see, you see like this. Okay. In case this is called as the Hoffman sign. In case of Wartenberg sign, what is Wartenberg sign? You ask the patient to hold your hand, hold his hand like this, and hook and hook his patient hand. And now you just you ask the patient to extend his hand. Normally, what happens? Normally, the thumb. If you do like this, means what happens? Hmm? If you do, in case of extensor upper motor, the thumb will get flexed. The thumb will get flexed. Normally, the thumb will go outward. Okay. So now come the difference between the Babinski sign and the pseudo-Babinski sign. So Babinski sign associated with the hamstring muscles contraction can be felt. Pseudo-Babinski, there will be no contraction. And the pressure on the base of the great toe will not inhibit the response. Whereas in pseudo-Babinski, if you give a pressure on the ball toe, if you give a pressure over the great toe, ball of the great toe, the response gets aborted. This is Babinski and the pseudo-Babinski. Okay, now these are the superficial reflexes you have to demonstrate. Okay, now coming to the deep tendon reflexes. So deep tendon reflexes, biceps C5C6, supinator C5C6, root value I am saying C5C6, triceps C7C8, the knee L2, L3, L4, then ankle L5S1, then jaw jerk is mandibular division, then trapezius C3, finger flexion C8 T1, mainly T1, Hoffman is a small muscle, Wartenberg is also small muscle, okay, C7, C8, T1. So what are the precautions you will take for deep tendon reflexes? First, you have to use same type of knee hammer. Simultaneously, you have to check, and always you stand on the right side of the patient. You stand on the right side of the patient. Never go to the left side of the patient. Or if you want to check the left knee reflex also, you stand on the right side of the patient and you check it. Okay. So, and make sure that patient is warm and comfortable. And don't give anoxious stimulus to the patient. Then knee hammer should be sharp and it should not make any harm. And you make the muscle gets relaxed. And suppose if you want to see the biceps reflex, means slightly contract the biceps before doing the biceps reflex. Or slightly contract the supinator brachioradialis before doing the supinator reflex. Like that, slightly contraction is necessary. And you expose the muscle. For example, you want to see the biceps, you expose the biceps. You want to see the triceps, you expose the triceps. Okay. Similarly, knee means quadriceps. In low and genitalia, lower external genitalia to be covered and protected. And either you can put the patient in supine posture or in sitting posture, whichever the patient is comfortable. And don't put the hammer or reflex straightly over the muscle belly. If you put definitely you won't get a correct response. Tendon, you have to put the strike on the tendon. You have to strike on tendon. So coming to the grading, 0 means absent, 1 is normal jerk, 2 is brisk, 3 is exaggerated, 4 is clonus, 4 is associated with clonus. So how to remember this one? Knee jerk is normally brisk. Knee jerk is normally brisk. You consider knee jerk is normally brisk. Anything above knee jerk level means is an exaggerated. Anything above knee jerk is exaggerated. Other reflexes are just present. Other reflexes are normally present. Okay. Consider the knee jerk. Okay. So this is the method of doing. See, flex the elbow to the right angle and place the forearm in the mid-prone position. Place your thumb or index finger over the biceps tendon and tap. You see the contract and flexes the elbow. You have to look the muscle, not the action produced by the muscle. Okay. And supinator in mid-prone, same position, and tap over the supinator, the brachioradialis tendon. Okay. The supinator, the response given by brachioradialis is slight flexion of the elbow. There will be mild supination will be present. Then finger flexion will be present. There will be adduction of the shoulder will be present. Okay. These are the response of brachioradialis. So in case of inverted biceps means there will be extension of the elbow present. Inverted supinator means only finger flexion will be present. Only finger flexion will be present. So in case, this is the triceps. Triceps you can do in both position. Flex the elbow and allow the forearm and hand rest on. So support the forearm with your hand and tap the triceps tendon below the olecranon. Triceps contraction can be seen or felt. In case of inverted triceps, there will be elbow flexion will be present. Triceps reflex present means extension of the elbow. Inverted triceps means absent triceps with flexion of the elbow. Then this is the finger flexion. Okay. So actually you should not strike over the palms. Just you keep your finger over the proximal phalanges. You keep your slightly over the proximal phalanges and ask the patient to slightly flex the fingers, and you tap it. Okay. You see the flexion of the fingers and the thumb. A positive, you see what I said, the Hoffman sign, a positive response results in adduction and flexion of the thumb and flexion of the fingers. You see the Wartenberg sign. Normally the thumb gets adducted, but the flexion of the thumb indicates the positive response. That is, it gets both flexion. See, normally the flex. See, if you are doing like this means sometimes the patient will have the thumb gets flexion associated with the thumb flexion with the adduction means there will be, you can consider as a positive response. Sometimes you will get the extension of the, normally you get the extension sometimes. This is the Wartenberg sign. And this Wartenberg sign and the Hoffman sign are equivalent of plantar in upper limb. This is knee jerk. So knee and ankle, you can do this test both in sitting as well as supine position. Okay. In sitting position means ask the patient to sit at the end of the couch and ask the patient to hang the leg, and you just give a tap over the patella tendon. You will see the response. Okay. Otherwise, you can ask the put in the patient in supine position and hold it like this. Okay. If the knee response is exaggerated, you have to see for knee clonus. You have to look for ankle clonus. For this, you slightly stretch over. First, sharply push the patella towards the foot while the patient lies in supine. How to do means give a sudden jerk to the patella initially, followed by sustained pressure over the thumb and index finger in a downward direction. First you have to pull it upward and give a sudden jerk to the patella. It will its positive response means it will move. it will move. It will give a jerky movements. Okay. Sometimes there will be ill-sustained response will be present. In case of human lesion, there is sometimes it can present with the ill-sustained response. Anxiety can also present the ill-sustained response. Okay. Yeah, if you want to say patellar clonus or ankle clonus to be positive, there should be more than 6 moments. More than 6 moments. Okay. This is the position I have to look for ankle clonus. So dorsiflex, support the flexor knee with one hand in the popliteal fossa so that the ankle rests gently. So don't keep your hand over the gastrocnemius. Don't keep your hand over the gastrocnemius. That is the main point. Okay. So dorsiflex the foot briskly with the other hand and sustain the pressure. Now, in case of the high ankle conus, definitely there will be more than 6 intermittent jerky movements can be seen. So this is the overall. And one more reflex, adductor reflex is carried out by the obturator now. Nerve root is L2, L3. So what is adductor reflex means? In case of severe hypertonia, a patient is having severe hypertonia means ask the patient to sit at the end of the couch and separate the legs and apply the finger over the medial thigh and just give a strike over the knee. There will be adduction of the both legs will be both thighs will be present. This is a crossed adductor response. Crossed adductor response means opposite side also gets adducted. This means that there is a diffuse spreading of the reflexes present. It means that diffuse spreading of the reflex. Okay. So I already explained the inverted reflex to you. So these are the some of the definition what tone, spasticity, rigidity, muscle. So what is a tone? It's a degree of tension present in a muscle at rest. Spasticity means it's a state of hypertonia of agonist and antagonist muscle group. Rigidity means it's a present uniformly increased both in agonist and antagonist muscle group. Clonus is the sudden stretching of hypertonic muscle produces a reflex contraction. Power is the force of contraction that can be generated voluntarily by the muscle. A reflex is involuntary adaptive response to the stimulation of a sense organ. Reflex arc consists of sensory receptor, afferent pathway, center, efferent pathway, and efferent organ. What you do is just you have this or photo snap of this presentation, this slide alone. Before going to exam, you just read and you memorize this one, because definitely they will ask any definition. For MD and all they will ask, but I don't know about ortho exams and all. They will ask the definition. You tell the definition and you forget. That's all. So no other way. Then gait. So gait, posture and power I will take in some other class. Gait, you see circumduction gait in hemiplegia, scissoring gait in paraplegia, that is human type of both side hemiplegia, both side human type of lesion presenting, they will present with the scissoring gait. Then drunken gait in cerebellum, then high steppage gait in posterior column or peripheral neuropathy, stamping gait in posterior column, also seen in posterior column. Then fistulin gait in Parkinsonism, magnetic gait in normal pressure hydrocephalus or frontal lobe diseases. So these are various types of gait. I will take in separate class. Okay, thank you. So if you have any doubt, you can ask. Okay. So I think everybody slept.
Sir, can you see me? Sir, can you see me, sir?
Sir, இல்ல sir, wait sir.
இல்ல நீங்க அந்த ஃபுல் இப்போ நீங்க இது பண்ணிட்டீங்கன்னா ஸ்கிரீன் இது பண்ணிட்டீங்கன்னா வந்துரும் சார். You can see everybody.
Oh, okay sir.
வந்துருச்சுங்களா சார்?
வந்துருச்சு.
ஸ்கிரீன் ஷேரிங் ஸ்டாப் பண்ணிட்டீங்கன்னா then you can see. இல்லனா சைடுல வந்து அந்த இந்த மோட் போட்டுட்டீங்கன்னா வந்துரும் சார் நீங்க. அந்த ஸ்கிரீன் கிளிக் பண்ணீங்கன்னா everybody will come.
Okay sir. ஷேர் ஸ்டாப் பண்ணிட்டேன் சார். ஒரு
இல்ல இன்னும் ஷேர் ஆயிடுச்சு சார். இல்ல
Share
ஷேர்
ஆயிட்டு.
ஆயிட்டு தான் இருக்கு இன்னும். நீங்க ஸ்டாப் ரைட் ஓகே.
Okay,
இப்போ ஐ திங்க் யூ கேன் see me sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
சார் ஐ திங்க் இது வந்து ஐ டோன்ட் எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் எனிதிங் மோர் தென் திஸ். ஐ திங்க் தேங்க் யூ சார், தேங்க் யூ ஸோ மச். ஐ திங்க் நீங்க வந்து ரொம்ப ஸ்லோவா ஐ திங்க் யூ மேட் இட் வெரி வெரி கம்ஃபர்டபுள் ஃபார் தி பிஜிஸ் அண்ட் யூ ரிப்பீட்டட் எவ்ரிதிங் வெரி. தேங்க் யூ ஸோ மச் சார். அது வந்து ஐ திங்க் இட் இஸ் a difficult part in a neurological examination, though you made it very simple. எனக்கு வந்து என்னோட நான் படிச்ச கெனாங் தென் ஓப்பன் ஃபீல்ட் எல்லாத்தையும் படிச்ச மாதிரி இருந்துச்சு சார். இட் இஸ் a revision for it was a revision, and of course your knowledge and your experience in neurology made it very easy and made it very simple also. I know it is a complicated part because we are not doing it regularly. As an orthopedician we don't do neurological examination that very frequently. So whatever case we get, I think if PGs are able to grasp at least 50% of what you taught, I think that is more than sufficient for a postgraduate. And I also welcome Dr. Ram Prasad sir. He is associate professor in Chengalpet Medical College.
Good evening,
so
sir.
I think he wants to interact with you. Yes, Rampi.
Sir, hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Very nice presentation. Good evening, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Very calm and cool like MS Dhoni.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, actually, whole of your presentation was very smooth, and for me, it feels like more than okay. You have touched about all the tests by step, and what I feel is we should know what cases we have to refer to a neurophysician at least, because all the patients coming with altered gait are not orthopedic patients.
Yes,
All
sir.
the patients coming with some form of muscle weakness are not orthopedic patients. So there is a place where there is an overlap, and there is a domain which is exclusively meant for neurophysician, where an orthopedician should not waste time in prescribing some tablets or some treatment protocol for the patient, I feel. So this presentation guided the orthopedicians which patient we have to select for treatment and which patient we have to select for referral to neurophysician. So that was a very good way of discriminating patients through your presentation today. So for that, my hearty congratulations for you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now I have got a few doubts actually. Can I
Yes, sir.
clarify?
Yes, sir.
So we, in our spine examination, we used to start with the higher functions. So is it enough if we say consciousness and orientation to time, place, and person as higher functions, or anything else should be added?
Sir, usually what we will do like MD examination means higher mental function, we will say consciousness, orientation to time, place, person. Then we will say the MMSE score, sir, mini mental status examination, and then memory, speech, then emotional ability. So these 6 things will be present in our MD level, sir. For you, it is to better to add speech and memory also, sir. If possible, means you can add it, because most of the orthopedician, they feel very difficult to say I examine the speech disorders and I examine the memory and all. And one more thing, they don't have time to examine this kind of higher mental functions, sir. So it is better to say consciousness, orientation, and attention whether patient is having, because orientation and attention, these are the 2 things is essential for examining the power and all, sir.
So through the course of our history taking itself,
you will
we can
get
come
the
to we can come to some
patient
decision whether the patient conscious, whether the
conscious,
patient
oriented, alert, and
speech,
active.
speech,
Yes,
memory, everything we will be able to
able to
ascertain.
discuss. Yes,
The only thing is we don't mention these things as what we have examined to the examiner.
yes, sir.
So there the examiner thinks that this candidate doesn't know what he has to do. So just by mentioning that, as you said, I have examined the higher functions in the form of consciousness, orientation, time, place, and person,
Patient is alert,
memory, and
attentive.
speech.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I mention that, then the examiner decides that the candidate is knowing what he has to see.
Yes,
So
sir.
that is one thing. Next thing is cortical sensations. Cortical sensations. So
Yes, sir.
normally we look for stereognosis, graphesthesia, and then tactile localization and tactile discrimination. Is it enough or something else should be added?
Sir, if when to see cortical sensory sensation, sir. So first, the initial primary modality of sensation, pain, touch, temperature. a patient should have a normal pain touch temperature. Then only you have to go look for cortical sensation. If suppose the patient have hyperesthesia or any pain abnormality or the touch abnormality is present, vibration abnormality is present, means you are not supposed to do cortical sensory tests, sir. So primary
So
sensory modalities. Yes,
according
sir.
to you, if touch sensation is not there, then there is a question of looking for tactile discrimination.
Tactile discrimination. Yes, sir.
Tactile discrimination basically requires that the patient
Primary
should have
modality of
intact,
sensation should be intact.
intact touch. Yeah, intact touch sensation is a prerequisite for going for checking this tactile discrimination.
Yes,
But tactile discrimination and tactile localization comes under cortical sensation only.
Cortical sensation. Yes, sir.
So gray cortex.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And third one is posterior column sensation.
Yes, sir.
Posterior column sensation. Normally, we look for position sense of the joint.
Joint
And,
sense,
vibration,
position sense,
yeah.
vibration sense,
So
sir.
joint is different, position is different.
Yes. Joint is different from position sensation.
So
Sir.
what is the difference? What is the difference?
Sir, actually, both these are carried by different tracts. According to neurologists, both are carried by different tracts, sir.
No, how will you perform the joint sense? And how will you perform the position? Because
Yes,
what I usually do is I for the great toe or thumb will position the particular finger or toe in your position, and then we will touch on the sides, that is medial and lateral aspect of the wrist or the thumb, and I will flex, bring it below or take it above, and ask the patient to say whether I'm flexing or extending.
Sir, that is the joint sense, sir. What you are saying, mentioning is joint sense. In case of position sense, suppose ask the patient to close his eyes and ask the lift his arm or above, or you put in suppose you put your right upper limb in a flexed position in some position in this space, and similar position in the opposite side. You ask the patient to put the same kind of position in the opposite side also, sir. That is the position sense. And joint sense, where you are asking if great toe is flexed or extended, is joint sense, sir. This is different from the position sense. However, the test says that the proprioception of the patient, exterior proprioception of the patient, sir.
Can you repeat that position sense? How to do?
Yes, sir. Sir, position, for example, you consider you are keeping the patient right upper limb in the elbow in the flexed position in the space. You are keeping like this, sir. And our patient is in close eye close.
No, we have to passively keep the elbow, or the patient himself actively.
Passively. நீங்க நம்மளே வந்து ஒரு பொசிஷன்ல வச்சுட்டு அதை வந்து அது ஆப்போசிட் லிம்பை அதே பொசிஷன்ல வைக்க சொல்லணும் பேஷண்ட்டை. அது
So that is position sense.
Position sense, sir.
Similarly in lower limb also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Similarly in lower limb.
Sir, I have a couple of questions. Rampi, ஒரு ரெண்டு questions பிரபாகர் கேட்டிருக்க அப்படி.
ஒரே ஒரு question கேட்றேன்.
முடிங்க. No problem.
ஒண்ணு இல்ல ரெண்டு இருக்கு actually. சின்ன question தான். Sir, the bulbocavernous reflex which you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
You said we'll have to look at the base of the penis for the contraction.
To see the
what I thought was squeeze the glands and look for the anal muscle contraction, not like that.
Sir. This is two thoughts, sir. Actually, we are also having two thoughts. One is by putting our finger in the anal orifice, and we have to squeeze, and with this response anal tone gets increased and it will hold our fingers, sir. This is the one mode of way of testing, and the other mode of way of testing is we have to look the contraction of the bulbocavernous muscle at the dorsum of the scrotum.
But which is the better agreed method of examination?
Sir, neurologist, we will agree the anal tone, sir.
Okay.
We will agree.
No. We are also in exams. We are following the same anal tone only, because since there was a small deviation in your presentation, I wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Because in orthopedic examinations, we are teaching the candidates to do like that. So squeeze the glands, and we'll keep a finger in the glowed finger in the anus and look for the anal contraction.
Okay,
So,
sir. Okay,
because in patients with the traumatic paraplegia, when we want to come to a situation where the spinal shock has reversed or not.
Reverse, sir.
So, in order to diagnose whether the spinal shock has recovered, patient has recovered from spinal shock, we take this bulbocavernous as the trump card.
Earliest sign to be
Clinical.
recovered.
Yeah,
Yes,
so we take this bulbocavernous, and hence all the PGs in our thing, traditionally they are taught that way is there's a glowed finger in the anus and squeezing the
Okay, sir.
bulb, the bulb of the. That is one thing, sir. The other one, what is the last question actually? What is the cremasteric equivalent in female? So how to test?
Yes, sir.
Test in females.
Sir, it's a labia majora contraction you have to see, sir. Sir, it has one name. I usually used to ask my juniors. I forgot that name, reflex name, sir. So there is a separate reflex name is present, sir. I will send it to you in next class, sir, definitely. I forgot the name. You have to look out the labia majora contraction, sir.
Okay. So anyway, thank you so much, sir, for your calm and calm composure.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thiru, please.
Yeah.
Thiru,
Prabha, go ahead. Prabha has got a couple of questions. I think very valid questions. I think it has to be asked. Prabha, go ahead.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Sir,
sir.
Audible, sir?
Yes. Tell me, sir.
Sir, basic doubts is what is the difference between the conus medullaris and cauda equina? That is, where to assume the lesion in the spinal cord?
Sir, conus medullaris is the upper motor neuron type of lesion, sir.
Yes, sir.
Cauda equina is a lower motor type of lesion due to root involvement. First thing you have to know this one, sir. Second thing, in conus medullaris lesion, usually that present like that cervicus spondylosis. That is a typical human type of features. Knee reflexes will be present, exaggerated, or plantar will be extensor. There will be symmetrical involvement will be present in conus medullaris. Whereas in cauda, which root it has involved, the root pattern will be present. That is, patient will have severe pain, asymmetrical. To suppose S2, S3, S4 is get affected, means patient will have absent anal reflex, absent tone, anal tone, bulbocavernous reflex gets affected. So it behaves like element type of lesion. And one more thing, in conus medullaris, you will get the human type of bladder. In cauda equina, you will get the element type of bladder, sir. So conus medullaris, cauda equina, definitely I will take a separate class to you, sir.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay. That's
It
why
is very, very, very toughest thing to get understand this conus medullaris. Okay, sir.
I think part 2 of the question of Prabhakar was that only, sir. What is the difference of bladder, upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron bladder? I
Yes,
think so.
I will take in.
Yes, okay.
bladder பேசணும்னா பேசிட்டே போகலாம் சார்.
ஆமா சார். I think we'll open the questions to other PGs also. I think in PGs a lot of people have come forward to ask questions. So PGs, you can go ahead and get interact with sir.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
This is Venkatesh from Royapeta.
Yes, sir.
Sir, what are the cerebellar signs to be examined in case of in a clinical presentation, sir, for us? Cerebellar, yeah.
Okay. So to examine a cerebellar signs, the power should be more than 3. First point you have to remember. Power more than 3, you have to examine the cerebellar signs. So you just look for 3 signs. First, nystagmus and dysarthria, speech dysarthria in the face. In face. In upper limb and lower limb, you see finger nose finger test and heel shin test.
Okay, sir.
Upper limb finger nose finger test, you will see the incoordination you can get, and similarly in lower limb heel shin test, you will see the lower limb incoordination. And one more thing they will ask is what is pendular knee jerk. Okay, what is pendular knee jerk means in case of cerebellar ataxia or cerebellar diseases, a patient in hypotonia, the tone will be in hypotonia, and if you strike the patellar tendon, you will keep on getting the movement of the knee. continuously you will get the knee movement. That is the pendular knee jerk. Okay, jerky movements will be present. Sir, one more thing is, see, ஒரு 3 டெஸ்ட் மட்டும் பண்ணா வந்து செரிபெல்லமே முடிஞ்சிடும் சார். சரிங்களா? ஃபர்ஸ்ட் திங் அதுதான். வெர்மிஸ் டெஸ்ட் பண்றதுக்கு நிஸ்டாக்னஸ் அண்ட் அட்டாக்சியா, ஸ்டான்ஸ் அட்டாக்சியா பார்க்கலாம். ஃபர்ஸ்ட் திங். தென் லெஃப்ட் செரிபெல்லம் if gets involved, patient will have dysarthria, staccato speech or scanning speech. And third thing, incoordination. Incoordination by means of finger nose finger test or finger test incoordination. That's all. இது மூணு பண்ணீங்கனாலே செரிபெல்லம் முடிஞ்சிருச்சு சார், அவ்வளவுதான்.
So this is Dr. Srinivasa Choran, Ortho PG from KMC, sir. Okay, sir, how to differentiate muscle wasting and disuse atrophy, sir? Muscle wasting is seen in element type of lesion. So disuse atrophy will be in a human type of lesion.
Sir, in disuse atrophy, there will be hypertonia, sir. Class-Nice associated with the Class-Nice plasticity. Disuse atrophy. Okay, sir. In muscle wasting in element type of lesion, there will be flaccidity associated with the flaccidity, sir. Muscle will be flabby. If you touch the and feel the muscle, means muscle will be flabby.
Okay.
So,
sir, any other test to differentiate between preganglionic and postganglionic lesions other than Horner syndrome?
Other than Horner syndrome. Pre-ganglionic, post-ganglionic.
I think he is planning brachial plexus root avulsion.
Root avulsion.
He's asking about the brachial. I think that's a separate
separate entity. இல்ல அதுல வந்து ஹார்னர்ஸ் வச்சு தான் சார் டிஃபரன்ஷியேட் பண்ணுவோம். ஆக்சுவலா சிம்பத்தட்டிக் ஃபைபர்ஸ் கெட் இன்வால்வ் இஸ் வந்து தான் நம்ம வந்து ப்ரீ-கேங்லியானிக், போஸ்ட்-கேங்லியானிக் brachial plexusல தான் அது பார்க்கணும். அது
we are planning a separate session for that. I think for brachial plexus to peripheral nerves, I think that is a separate. This is more of a CNS examination.
This is for just for spinomotor system examination.
I think Dr. Muthukumar, I think want to ask question. Varadarajan,
sir,
நீ உனக்கு எதுவும் டவுட்லாம் இல்லையாப்பா? எல்லாம் கிளியரா
சார் இருக்கு சார், டவுட் இருக்கு சார். one question sir. Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Sir, this is Dr. Varadarajan from KMC, sir. Sir, one doubt, sir. Sir, sir, if you are having a lesion at the level of C5 and C6, sir.
கொஞ்சம் sir, sound கொஞ்சம் கம்மி பண்ணுங்க.
இப்போ ஓகே.
மைக் கீழ வச்சு பேசுங்க. ஓகே.
Okay, sir. Sir, if you are having a lesion at the level of C5 and C6, sir, as you said, what are the symptoms produced at the level of C5-6?
Symptoms produced. No, symptoms are signs.
Signs, sir.
Sorry. So you are getting a case of cervical spondylosis at C5, C6 level. Okay. So yes, in this, the C5 supplies the deltoid muscle. First thing you have to remember, C5 supplies the deltoid muscle. First thing. Okay. Second thing, the sensation over the anterolateral aspect of the arm. Around the shoulder, is supplied by the C5 sensation. So the sensation will be impaired, and the deltoid around that region will get weakness and atrophy. So there will be loss of contour of the neck of the humerus. Lack of contour will be present. Second thing. Okay. And there will be reflex lost. Biceps reflex and supinator reflex gets abolished, and you will get the inverted biceps and inverted supinator reflex. Okay. And below C6 there will be human. That means that triceps gets exaggerated, and knee finger flexion is exaggerated. Wartenberg sign, other Hoffman side gets positive. Knee and ankle reflex exaggerated with the clonus. Bilateral plantar will extend up.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
But my question is, if there is a lesion at the level of L5-S6, what is the reason behind the, sorry sir, C5, C6, sir. What is the reason behind the exaggeration of lower limb reflexes, sir?
Sir, this is a very good question. This doubt has been practically this doubt is acceptable because I also had this kind of doubt because see
ரொம்ப நாளா டவுட் இருக்கு சார், அதான் சார் நான் கேட்டேன்
சார். ரொம்ப நாளா இல்ல, இது எனக்கே படிக்கும் போதெல்லாம் டவுட் வரும். இது சிம்பிள் லாஜிக் தான் சார். சரிங்களா? சோ பிரமிடல் ஃபைபர் மேல இருந்து கீழே வருது சார், டிசெண்டிங் ஃபைபர்ஸ் வந்து வருது. சரிங்களா? இப்ப நம்மளோட அசம்ப்ஷன் பாயிண்ட் என்ன, ஆன்டீரியர் ஹார்ன்ஸ்ல இருந்து எல்எம்என், ஆன்டீரியர் ஹார்ன்ஸ்ல இருந்து எல்எம்என். இப்ப C5 எடுத்துக்கோங்க. C5 அந்த பிரமிடல் ஃபைபர் கீழே வரும்போது C5 வர்றது வந்து ஹியூமன் ஃபைபர் அங்கிருந்து ஆன்டீரியர் ஹார்ன்ஸ் வெளியில வந்துடும். சரிங்களா? இப்ப C6 பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் வந்து C6 நம்ம லீஷன் சொல்லியிருக்கோம். ஸோ C6 வந்து எல்எம்என்னா தான் இருக்கும். ஆனா C7 போகும்போது அது ஹியூமன் ஃபைபரா இருக்கும். மேல இருந்து அந்த டென்ஸ் ஃபைபர் கீழே இறங்குதுல, ஒவ்வொரு ஃபைபரும் கீழே இறங்குது. ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் அந்த ஷேரிங் இதுல காட்டுறேன் உங்களுக்கு.
Just add one point, sir. Can I just add one point?
Yes, sir.
இல்ல actually Varadarajan, the answer to your question is actually in Genong. அது sir explain பண்ணுவாரு. But what I've gained so far is, sir, actually the pyramidal tract has got some inhibitory fibers to the muscle or to the lower motor neuron. So when the pyramidal tract to that lower motor neuron is cut, or it is, you know, somewhere it is, there is a fault, the inhibitory fibers is lost. Seriya? So this inhibitory fibers, because it is lost, there is an exaggerated muscle contraction and the reflexes are exaggerated, or the tone, actually it has the inhibition of the muscle tone, the pyramidal traction. So this, because there is a loss of inhibition of from the upper motor neuron, the muscle, the axis resting tone is normally high, but this inhibition will control the tone. So when there is loss of this inhibition to the muscle tone, there is an exaggerated hype, or there is a rigidity, or there is a spasticity of the muscle and the reflexes are exaggerated. Am I right, sir? Am I right?
Sir, அவர் வந்து அந்த டவுட் கேட்கல சார். இப்ப அவருக்கு வந்து இல்ல பேசிக் அனாட்டமில அவருக்கு ஒரு டவுட் இருக்கு சார். சரிங்களா? நீங்க சொல்றது வந்து 100% கரெக்ட் எக்ஸ்பிளனேஷன் சார். பட் இவரோட டவுட் வந்து என்னன்னா வந்து இந்த அனாட்டமில என்ன ப்ராப்ளம்னா, ஆர் ஏபிள் டு see this diagram? என்னோட மவுஸ் பார்க்க முடியுதுல, மவுஸ் கர்சர் பார்க்க முடியுதுல?
தெரியுது.
சார் இப்ப இது பாத்தீங்கன்னா இந்த கார்டு தான் C5 ன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க சார். சரிங்களா? திஸ் இஸ் தி C5. இந்த ஸ்பைனல் கார்டு செக்மெண்ட் வந்து C5 ன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. கீழே இதே மாதிரி C6 இருக்கும், C7 இருக்கும். இப்ப வந்து பிரமிடல் ஃபைபர்ஸ் வந்து கீழே இறங்குது சார். சரிங்களா? இறங்கி டெக்குசேட் ஆயிருச்சு. ஆனவுடனே இந்த C5ல இருக்கிற ஆன்டீரியர் செல்லோட முடிஞ்சிருது சார். சரிங்களா? சோ இப்ப லீஷன் வந்து என்னன்னா, இந்த C5ல வந்து எலிமெண்ட் டைப் ஆஃப் லீஷன் வர்றதுனா ஆன்டீரியர் செல் வந்து அஃபெக்ட் ஆயிடுச்சு. சரிங்களா? இப்ப இந்த ஃபைபர்ஸ் வந்து இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் கீழே இறங்குது. இந்த ஃபைபர்ஸ் வந்து இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் கீழே இறங்குதுன்னா இப்ப C7 வருதுன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. சரிங்களா? C7ல வந்து ஆன்டீரியர் செல்ல எண்ட் ஆகுது. ஸோ இந்த லெவல்ல ஒரு லீஷன் இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. சரிங்களா? யூ கன்சிடர் திஸ் இஸ் தி லெவல் ஆஃப் லீஷன். ஸோ C5ல ஒரு லீஷன் இருக்குன்னா இந்த C5ல இருக்கிற ஆன்டீரியர் செல் வந்து அஃபெக்ட் ஆயிருக்கு. ஆனா C7 பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் அதோட ஹியூமன் ஃபைபர்ஸ் தான் கீழே இறங்கிட்டு இருக்கு, டிசெண்ட் ஆயிட்டு இருக்கு. சரிங்களா? ஸோ C7ஓட ஹியூமன் ஃபைபர்ஸ் தான் வந்து C5ல இருக்கும். நான் சொல்றது புரியுதா உங்களுக்கு? ஸோ அதுதான் வந்து C7ல போய் ஆன்டீரியர் செல்ல முடியுது. ஸோ அதனாலதான் வந்து அட் தி லெவல் ஆஃப் லீஷன்ல வந்து உங்களுக்கு வந்து எலிமெண்ட் டைப் ஆஃப் வீக்னஸும், கீழே வந்து C7 T1 நீங்க போனீங்கன்னா ஹியூமன் டைப் ஆஃப் லீஷன் வந்து வருது. புரியுதா சார் நான் சொல்றது?
ஓகே சார்.
அந்த டிசெண்டிங் ஃபைபர்ஸ் வந்து கீழே இறங்கிட்டு தான் இருக்கு. T1க்கு கீழே இறங்கிட்டு தான் இருக்கும், T2ஓட ஃபைபர்ஸும் கீழே இறங்கிட்டு தான் இருக்கும், எல்லாமே கீழே இறங்கிட்டு தான் இருக்கு. இந்த லெவல்ல ஆன்டீரியர் செல்ல முடியல. எங்க ஆன்டீரியர் செல் இருக்கோ அங்க இருந்து தான் எல்எம்என்.
there is a cord transection. சரிங்களா? suppose there is a cord transection. so இப்ப இறங்கிட்டு இருக்கு, that's okay. suppose there is a cord transection, then what will be the picture, sir?
complete cord transection. சார் நான் இந்த ரீசனே இதே வந்து கார்ட் டிரான்சாக்ஷன்ல தான் நான் சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கேன். கம்ப்ளீட் கார்ட் டிரான்சாக்ஷன் இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. சரிங்களா? இப்ப என்னன்னா இந்த C5ல ஒரு கம்ப்ளீட் டிரான்சாக்ஷன் கார்ட் டிரான்சாக்ஷன் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா அந்த லெவல்ல இருக்கிற ஆன்டீரியர் செல்ஸ் வந்து லீஷன் ஆயிருச்சு. ஆனா கீழே இருக்கிற செக்மெண்ட்ஸ்ல இருக்கிற ஆன்டீரியர் செல்ஸ்லாம் நார்மலா தான் இருக்கு. ஸோ அப்படின்னா என்ன மீனிங்னா அட் தி லெவல்ல வந்து ஆண்ட்ரான்சல் கெட் இன்வால்வ் ஆனதுனால எலமெண்ட் ஃபீச்சர்ஸ் வந்து இருக்கு.
ஓகே.
கீழே இருக்கிற ஆண்ட்ரான்சல்ஸ்லாம் நார்மலா இருக்கிறதுனால டிசெண்டிங் ஃபைபர்ஸ் தான் அஃபெக்ட் ஆகிறதுனால வந்து உங்களுக்கு வந்து ஹியூமன் சைன்ஸ் வந்து கீழே வருது.
Oh, even at complete card transaction also it is human.
ஆமா, கம்ப்ளீட் கார்ட் டிரான்சாக்ஷன்ல இதா இருக்கும். அதுதான் சார் நம்ம அக்யூட் டிரான்ஸ்வர்ஸ் மைலைட்டிஸ்னு சொல்றோம் சார்.
எஸ் சார்.
கிளாசிக்கல் எக்ஸாம்பிள் அக்யூட் டிரான்ஸ்வர்ஸ் மைலைட்டிஸ், கம்ப்ளீட் அக்யூட் டிரான்ஸ்வர்ஸ் மைலைட்டிஸ் at the level of lesion is an 11 behaves like compressive myelopathy. Acute transverse myelitis behaves like compressive myelopathy. At the level of lesion there is an element, below the level of lesion there is an human.
I think திரும்பி இத படிச்சு பார்த்தா I think
சார் இது வந்து திருப்பி படிக்கணும் சார். இது வந்து எல்லாருக்குமே வர டவுட் தான். இதுல இந்த டவுட் வந்து உங்களுக்கு வந்தது தப்பே இல்ல, சரிங்களா?
Thank you.
ஏன்னா இது எனக்கு டிஎம் எக்ஸாம் வரைக்கும் இந்த டவுட் இருந்துச்சு. திருப்பி வந்து நான் படிச்சிட்டே இருக்கேன் அத.
Okay. Rest of the PGs, any doubts? I think Manoj, Agni-Raj நம்ம assistant sir, they were also joined
sir.
Manoj வாமா உள்ள வா
சார். தெரியுதாங்க சார்?
சார் மீட் பண்ணி எனக்கு क्वेश्चंस இல்ல.
மனோஜ் உங்க வீடியோ வரல, இப்போ வந்துருச்சுமா
வீடியோ? சார் ஒண்ணும் இல்ல சார், just I asked for the reference of neurological examination sir. எந்த புக் நம்ம ஃபாலோ பண்ணனும் for neurological examination?
Hutchinson சார். Hutchinson சரிங்களா?
ஓகே சார். Okay sir, that's all sir. Thank you.
What I feel is, I am Ramprasad speaking.
Yes,
what I feel is there are a lot of things to learn in orthopedics itself. We should be encroach and infringe on your area and ask your books now for reading. We don't have time to read our books itself.
இல்ல Ramprasad, Hutchinson is a definite book. அது வந்து I think நான் எப்பவுமே சொல்லிட்டே இருப்பேன். Hutchinson and McLeod ரெண்டுமே வந்து I think there are definitely PGs orthopedic postgraduate have to read Hutchinson, at least part of the neurology. அது என்ன 25 ல இருந்து 40.
That is fact, but we need not go into their extensively deep root.
இல்ல it will be very simple. இல்ல no Hutchinson will be very simple. Sir சொல்லுவார்.
I'm not talking about Hutchinson. Hutchinson is basic. But what Manoj was trying to know, what neurologist is reading. So
இல்ல அது கேட்கல. மனோஜ் என்ன கேட்டாருன்னா ஆர்த்தோபெடிக் எது வேணும்னு கேட்டாரு. I think Hutchinson is I think basic.
Hutchinson is the basic book sir.
Hutchinson is a basic.
சார் சீஃப் அசிஸ்டன்ட் அசோசியேட் ப்ரொஃபசர் எக்ஸாமினர்ஸ் எல்லாருமே ஹட்சின்சன் ரீட் பண்ணிட்டு தான் வருவாங்க சார். அதான் ஈஸியா இருக்கும். ஏன்னா அவங்க வந்து மோர் நம்பர் ஆஃப் டைம்ஸ் வந்து அதை படிச்சிருப்பாங்க. சீஃப் அசிஸ்டன்ட்ஸ்லாம் வந்து நிறைய வாட்டி படிச்சிருப்பாங்க. நாளைக்கு எக்ஸாம்னா இன்னைக்கு உட்காந்து ஈஸியா வந்து கோ த்ரூ பண்ணிட்டு வர்றது வந்து ஹட்சின்சன் தான் ஈஸியா இருக்கும் அவங்களுக்கு. ஸோ அதுல இருந்து தான் உங்களுக்கு கொஸ்டின்ஸ் வந்து மோஸ்ட் ஆஃப் தி கொஸ்டின்ஸ் வந்து கேட்பாங்க. நம்ம வந்து ஹட்சின்சன் தவிர எல்லாமே படிச்சிருப்போம். நீங்க வந்து எல்லாமே படிச்சிருப்போம் ஹட்சின்சன் தவிர. ஹட்சின்சன் மட்டும்தான் விட்டுட்டு போவோம் நம்ம. கடைசி ஹட்சின்சன்ல இருந்து தான் கேட்பாங்க.
அதான் சார். இல்ல இது ஆக்சுவலா சார் இந்த பிரசன்டேஷன் வந்து எங்களுக்கு வந்து சார் இட் இஸ் மோர் ஆஃப் a knowledge base, you know. இது வந்து எக்ஸாம்ல வந்து நீங்க கேக்குற இவ்வளவு क्वेश्चंस வந்து எங்களுக்கு கேட்க மாட்டாங்க for post graduates. I'm very sure. Even other orthopedic அது வந்து we don't concentrate much on neurology, but for understanding the neurology and to better knowledge about neurological cases, I think your presentation is a must for I think every postgraduate, and they have to know this where how to examine neurological case. I think that is very important. Whether it is important for exam or not, that I cannot tell you, but to understand the problem, I think definitely your presentation is of 100% value. Agni, you want to ask any question?
That's what I was telling at the beginning of our discussion itself. His presentation deals with all the basic concepts of neurological examination, which we also have to learn.
Yes,
but
yes.
apart from that, what he has told is, orthopedic surgeons, look here, you have to know your limit. And if you come across Charlie Chaplin gait or Festinian gait, this is not your bread and butter. You have to send it to neurophysician. So his gait also itself, he listed a few gait.
Next class,
so all the gaits we don't routinely come across in our orthopedic practice. So all the gaits mentioned. Yeah.
Anand, idu kekriya? Anand, you want to ask a doubt?
மேல பக்கத்துல திருப்பி வந்திருக்காங்க சார்.
யாருப்பா? Anand.
சார்.
Anand, உன்னோட நீ you want to ask any question?
இல்ல சார்.
இல்ல நீ அப்பனா மியூட் பண்ணிடு.
I want to
one more thing.
Anand சொல்லு, you want to say something? Rampi சொல்லுங்க சார், அவன் தெரியல. I think
the more than understanding this pyramidal decussation, we have to understand the crossing over of the pain and temperature fibers in the lateral spinothalamic tract. That aspect orthopedic surgeons also should know, because as you said, when there is a brown sequard or a lesion in the one half of the spinal cord, in those patients, what happens is the pain and temperature on the opposite side gets affected. So that point,
the brown sequard solringa,
you just have to carry home. Yeah.
Sir,
so not only brown sequard, but also sometimes some form of neural neuroma is there, tumor is there, which is impinging on one half of the spinal cord. In those situations, the PG should know that the pain and temperature will not be affected in the same side.
Sir,
pain and temperature on the opposite side only will get affected. That is the logic. So that the PG has to understand.
சார் கார்டு நான் வந்து கண்டிப்பா தனியா எடுக்கிறேன் சார். I will make it கார்டு அனாட்டமி வந்து கார்டு பிரசன்டேஷன்.
எங்களுக்கு வந்து more of கார்டு தான் சார், ஏன்னா because paraplegia, disc, so we are more oriented towards only the cord lesions. So எங்களுக்கு வந்து we will deal only with the cord lesions, sir, because we, of course இது மேல CNS புரியலனா இதுவும் புரியாது. So only the cord is not
basic
useful.
what is human, what is LMN. இப்போ நம்ம நெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து நம்ம கார்டு பேசும்போது இது வந்து உங்களுக்கு ஈஸியா டேக் பிஜிசி வந்து ஈஸியா
இருக்கும். அக்னி, நீங்க ஏதோ you want to ask something, அக்னி? ஆனந்த், உன்ன நீ ஏதோ கேள்வி கேட்க போறியா?
ஆனல் விங் டெஸ்ட்னா என்ன சார்? ஆனல் விங் டெஸ்ட்னா அது
anal wink, you mean to say anal wink?
anal wing test na sir.
So anal reflexல வந்து ரெண்டு இருக்கு சார், சரிங்களா? anal reflexல வந்து ஃபர்ஸ்ட் திங் வந்து ஒன்னு வந்து நம்ம டோன் ரிஃப்ளெக்ஸ் வந்து உள்ள ஃபிங்கர் இன்சினுவேட் பண்ணி பார்த்து ரிஃப்ளெக்ஸ் எப்படி இருக்குன்னு பாக்குறோம் சார். இன்னொன்னு வந்து the skin around the anus is also supplied by S2, S3, S4. So wisp of cotton வந்து அந்த இடத்துல வந்து ஒரு ஸ்டிமுலேட் பண்ணீங்கன்னா வந்து there will be contraction of the anal musculature, sir.
Okay.
That's anal wink.
That is almost the same as anal reflex.
Anal reflex is same.
Same da, ரெண்டுமே same da. Sir, I think if there are any more questions, we'll take it up, or I think இது க்ளோஸ் பண்ணலாம் நினைக்கிறேன் சார். சார் உங்களை I think we've taken a lot of your time, because எங்களுக்கு நிறைய நியூராலஜி லெவலுமே எனக்கு நிறைய டவுட்ஸ் இருந்துகிட்டே இருக்கும். It will be a continuous process. So we'll keep on asking doubts in neurology, because we are never sure about that. So we will burden you with a lot of questions. And next time, sir, maybe you can just before you start the presentation, two question at least you can ask the postgraduate, sir. Just 2 questions or 2-3 questions from the previous presentation, and just we'll have the understanding of how much they have understood the subject, sir. And once again, Prabha, you want to ask some question?
Sir, Lermet signs.
Lermet sign.
Sir, Lermet sign வந்து என்னன்னா posterior column fibers in cervical spondylosis, posterior column fibers வந்து get affected. If you flex the neck or the extension of the neck, it will result in the electric shock like sensation from head to below. So this is called as the Lermet sign, sir. இதுல வந்து Lermet signல வந்து reverse Lermet signலாம் இருக்கு, சரிங்களா? ஸோ இது வந்து நார்மல் Lermet sign மட்டும் நீங்க உங்களுக்கு போதும் சார், தெரிஞ்சுக்கோங்க. ஸோ இது வந்து மெயின்லி டியூ டு போஸ்டரியர் காலம் ஃபைபர்ஸ் வந்து இன்வால்வ் ஆகிறதுனால.
Thank you, sir. So thank you, sir. நீங்க I know how Ramprasad sir is assistant in GRH and one of the most sincere persons that you can see, சரிங்களா? அதாவது வந்து வார்ட் ரவுண்ட்ஸ் எவ்ரிதிங் ரொம்ப ரொம்ப வெரி 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 லைக் பயங்கர சிஸ்டமேட்டிக்கா இருப்பாரு. ஐ ஹவ் நாட் சீன் ஹிம், பட் ஐ ஹர்ட் அபவுட் ஹிம். அதனால தான் ஐ வாண்டட் யூ டு ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்கலி நான் வந்து உங்களை வந்து ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்கா பிஜிசி கிளாஸ் எடுக்கணும்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஐ வாண்டட் டு இன்வைட் யூ, சார். அண்ட் ஸோ வி ஆல் அண்டர்ஸ்டுட் how much sincere and how much care you have taken to take this, do this presentation on behalf of all the postgraduates and from KMC. We thank you, sir, and we hope to meet you again. நீங்க எப்போ whenever just a couple of days முன்னாடி எனக்கு சொன்னா கூட போதும் சார். So when you are ready with the next present, ஏன்னா நிறைய டியூட்டிஸ் இருக்கு. So lot of post graduates வந்து இன்னும் வருவாங்க, பட் என்னன்னா அங்கங்க கோவிட் டியூட்டி அண்ட் லாட் ஆஃப் கன்ஃபியூஷன்ஸ் ரிகார்டிங் த டியூட்டிஸ் ஆர் கோயிங் ஆன். ஸோ அதனால தான் ஸோ நியர்லி வி ஹேட் அரௌண்ட் 45 to 50 people சார் டுடே. And I think so thank you so much for your presentation, and we hope to meet you again, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Ram Prasad and others also, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.